Welcome back to another episode of the Club Cultivate podcast. Today is a beautiful day, and I'm very excited for today's guest. She is someone that I have followed via social media and seen all of her amazing work. And so today I'm excited to visit with Samantha Rainey of Story House Collective. Samantha, welcome to the show.
Hello, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to chat today.
Yes, perfect. Excited to dive on in, lots of different things. But first, can you share a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Yes, I am Samantha Rainey. I'm from West Texas. I grew up in Garden City, Texas. I'm a videographer, graphic designer, and web designer. I do a lot of branding work and apparel design as well. I've been doing this for about 8 years now. I'm 24 and I went to school at Texas Tech. I graduated with a degree in digital art and professional communications. I have learned a lot through this journey, a crazy journey. I've been all over the world doing what I do with a camera or a computer, and it's been fun. I like to work with ranches. I stick in the livestock world quite a bit. I recently just branched out to the wildlife world, which has been super fun with exotic ranches and breeding ranches in that world. So yeah, I also work a lot in real estate as well. So that's a little bit about me, but I'm excited to dive into the deeper things for sure.
That was so many fun little facts about you. And I also feel like it's such a Texas thing for the exotic and like breeding world. Like that, I had no idea what that was until I went down there. I'm like, wow, this is a whole world.
Right? I know. I was shocked. I had no clue like the depth of it until I started dating my boyfriend, and he's a game trader. And so we were going to these ranches and they do catches and stuff with helicopters, and I was like, wow, this world is awesome. So I've been super blessed to experience a lot of really, really cool things.
I should follow questions, but that makes me wonder, is it fun to go into different industries and like not ever feel like you're in the same space, even with real estate or livestock shows? Or tell us a little bit, like, how do you treat those? I mean, they're very different, but then also similar in some ways. So how does that work?
Yeah, I love to bounce in different worlds. I've started in the livestock world, and that's probably where I will die. Like that's my bread and butter. I love it. But there are times where it gets monotonous and you're doing the same thing over and over again. So being in the creative space, it's so awesome to be like, hey, you know what? I might try weddings. And so I've done the weddings, and that's been super fun. And then I've gotten into the web design and done some e-commerce sites for some different product lines, worked with some trainers. I've worked in the reproductive space. That was a little bit different than, I mean, it's still livestock based, but it was still like a completely different world. But I think with being a creative and being like having that flexibility to just kind of bounce around to these different industries, it's so much fun. But yeah, I think that's about. I'm trying to think of the other worlds that I've worked in that have been super fun. The real estate's super cool for sure. I'm getting into the real estate on a different level. I'm becoming a loan officer as well, just to kind of get further into that world. But yeah.
That's so fun. Talk us through your college degree process, because you also said you've been doing this for 8 years. Did you start in high school, and then like how did this, I mean, maybe it was like, I don't know if it was smaller back then or like just a side thing, but did that make your decision for your degree? You know, tell us a little bit about that story and that decision process.
Yeah, so that is like a wild story for sure. I started when I got behind a camera when I was about 15, and obviously not on a professional level whatsoever. Like, I look back to some of the stuff I was creating at that point and I was like, wow, that's terrible. But in the moment, I was like, this is so rad. Oh my gosh, I've done it, you know? But so I started at that point at 15. The reason I got into it was I was working for Schaefer Farms. They're like my grandparents. They're goat breeders, and they had people coming out to picture their sale wethers or does or whatever. And I was like, man, that's that's a really cool job. Like, I think I want to learn more about this. And I started asking some questions, and then I just tried my hand at it. They had like a really, really small sale that they needed like 5 head pictured for. And I was like, don't worry, I've got you covered. Did I? No, I did not have them covered. But I made an awesome ad in word. It was
Love
super
it.
awesome for a 15-year-old, you know? And from there, I was like, okay, I know I can get better at this, and I know that I can make money at this. Like, I know I can turn this into something big. And I wanted to chase, at that point in life, I was like, I want to do something really awesome with my life. And I don't know what it is, but I'm going to figure it out. And I kind of tried a lot of different things, but that was the one thing that stuck. And throughout high school, that was all I did was I did golf and I did design and photo work. And at that point, I knew that it was going to take a lot of learning, a lot of failing. I knew that what I was creating at that point wasn't going to be the end all be all, but I still was proud of it at that point. But I think that's what has shaped me to who I am today. But once I graduated high school, I started out at tech as an AgCom major, and that actually did not work for me. I did not really jive with some of professors there, and I don't know why that was. It just didn't stick, just didn't work for me. And I wanted to travel. I wanted to put myself in front of a camera all the time, and in my mind, that was how I was going to get better, not sitting in a classroom. However, I knew I wanted a college degree. So I was like, okay, let's find the best of both worlds. And a company in Kansas, it was a reproductive company, they did IVF and embryo work. They reached out to me and they were looking to hire a marketing director. Was I qualified for that? Absolutely not. But it all worked out. So I ended up moving to Kansas and went completely online through Texas Tech. And that's when I switched over to the digital art and professional communications degree. And that was the greatest transition of all time for me personally. I know that there's people in the AgCom world that are excelling. I'm not talking smack on that whatsoever. This is just my path. And once I was able to actually put my plans into action in terms of what I wanted to do with my life and my career, that's when things like the puzzle pieces started falling together. And I stayed in Kansas for a year, and then I moved to Georgia. That was super fun. Worked a lot out there, and then moved back to Texas and finished out my degree at Tech. I was in school through all of that, working through all of that. I got to experience some incredible opportunities. I got to meet some awesome people and work with some incredible brands. But once I came back to Tech, I was able to kind of recenter myself in the college kid life and live out my fun years. And then I was able to graduate, and then I moved back to Big Spring. And then that's when I started Story House. So for the most part, the creative world has been my main job. I say for the most part, it has been my main job. Like, that was my business in high school, and it's still what I do. The path has been treacherous. It's not been super, oh, this is what I want to do, I'm going to chase it, and this is how it's going to go. There were times where I was completely burnt out and thought, what am I doing? Like, I actually hate this and I'm not good at it. And I questioned myself. And then I had to have a little come to Jesus with myself and be like, hey, what are you doing? Get your head back in line. Like, you got this, girl. Keep pushing. And once I had those recentering moments, I was able to keep pushing through. So yeah, that's how I got to where I am today.
It's ironic that you just said that, because I was literally thinking, like, it sounds like you're such a go-getter. Like, when you told us the story about you being 15 and like taking goat photos, even though you didn't know what you were doing, like, that just seemed really like, even if you were going to fail, you were still going to do it. So I appreciate you sharing the other side to that, because it can seem like from the outside, you're like, okay, yep, I'm going to do it no matter how hard it is to get there.
Yeah.
But I guess there are those hard moments that you have to work through. Was there any moment that you thought you were going to throw it all in?
Oh, definitely. There was a lot of times throughout, especially in college, where I was like, I just don't think I'm cut out for this life. And that was when there was a lot of other people joining the industry too that they were reaching goals that I had strived for, and they were reaching them way quicker than I had. And I was like, I just don't understand. What am I doing wrong? I'm burnt out. And there were several times where I got to the brink of like, let's start searching for something else to get into. I can't keep moving like this. Every time I got to the brink of, okay, I'm going to look for another job. I want to get more into real estate, or I want to do this. It was like I had one brand randomly reach out to me like, hey, could you do this photo shoot for us? And I was like, well, that would be really cool. Man, that that would be really cool. And then it was like all the creative juices just came back and I was like, I forgot. This is why I do this.
I feel like that's a very relatable point, and I was just going to ask next of like how you kind of broke through that, but that it was, I guess, running your own business is such a high and low type of
Yes.
emotional journey.
Oh, percent. There are days where I'm like on top of the world. I'm like, this is exactly why I chose this path for me. Like this is what I do. I love it. I live it. And then there's days where I wake up and I'm like, I do not want to get out of bed. Have too much to do. I'm stressed out. And I think that's like something that is kind of overlooked with being a business owner or being a creative. Like there's so many ebbs and flows to it, and there are days where you think this is the end, and then there's days where you're like, this is exactly why I chose this. And it's those days, I think you need those bad days where you're really struggling and you're burnt out. And I even those words coming out of my mouth, I'm like, you do, because it makes you so thankful for the days where you're just like on the top of the world, living your best life, going out there, shooting, hustling. Like it just makes it that much better. So,
Yeah, the risk is a lot higher, like the pain is a lot higher, but the reward and the benefit definitely outweighs things for sure.
yes, yes.
Do you think that, and obviously answer this however you want, because I know there's some people that still struggle with it, but you've done this for a long time. There are seasons of burnout, I think, especially in our industry where like Texas majors are going on right now, right? Like that's a busy season no matter how you slice it, no matter how prepared and organized you are, or bull sale season, or, there's lots of different things where like the livestock ag world just has to happen the way it does. But 8 years in, how do you try to avoid burnout, whether creatively or even just like emotionally?
Well, that's such a good question. I struggle with that, truly. I think the season of life that I'm in right now, tackling things quite a bit differently. If you would ask me that question last year, I would have a completely different answer for you. But this year, I have decided to slow things down just a little bit for myself, because I was getting to the point last year where I was running so hot and heavy constantly, and I thought that's what I needed to do. That I was just, by the end of the day, I was just wiped. I had nothing left to give. I had no personal life either. All I did was work. Wake up, work, go to sleep, wake up, work. Like, that's all I did. I think what I'm trying to do for myself now is truly make the time for myself, whether that's going to the gym, whether that's going on a date, whether that's hanging out with my family, like truly trying to give myself the time to be a human for a second and just live my life and be Sam. And that has truly helped a lot, because then I can come back to work feeling fueled and not feeling just completely empty and nothing left in the tank. So yeah, that's my new tactic. We'll see how it goes.
Do you think it takes getting to a point of burnout or like so bad? Because I guess I was at a similar point and then finally realized the power of the word no, which is scary. I also think that like I've had to deal with this concept of like in ag, we work hard, right? You always need to be working. But when you're trying to be creative, that's a whole nother layer of like, even I think separating it, the hardness of running a business, like creativity is a whole nother beast. And so
Oh,
do
yeah.
you think you have to hit that point to like change things?
Truly, I want to say like, no, you can find that point way before then, but I think that's what it takes to understand the power of no and understand that you can have a life. But I think creativity is such a addictive drug that you have to reach that point of giving it your all, so much so that you don't have anything left to give, until you're like, all right, I got to do something different, because I can't keep creating at this capacity. Like, this is way too much. And maybe that's different for other people, but I think that people like you and I, or that are wired similarly, it might be that way. But I have definitely learned, well, I'm still learning the power of no, and I totally understand that mindset of what you're talking about with like growing up around the ag industry. Everyone works hard, and you know what you have to do. You know you have to go out there and hustle. And me saying no, I'm like, girl, make time. Like, come on, hustle. You can do it. You can make it happen. And there's times where I truly can't. And there's been times where I truly couldn't and I still did. That pushed me to that brink of like just complete burnout. Creativity versus physical labor is two completely different things. And that's one thing that I wasn't able to separate in my mind. And I think that stems from growing up. My dad would see me working in my office and he'd come in from working on a tractor or something and he'd be like, "You're just sitting around?" And I'm like, "No, I'm working." you know? So, but yeah, no, it is a struggle, but I do think that reaching that point of burnout is kind of along the path of being a creative. Like I think that's in there. And I don't think it's a bad thing, truly. Like I think it's something that people should experience at one point just to know how it feels. But yeah.
I agree. Like again with the ups and downs, like you have to experience the low to figure out the high. But the one thing that I guess I continued to realize also with like, I need to prioritize time and energy and refueling, like you said, but B, like the client experience is better as well. Like, so it's a win-win for like both scenarios or both parties. And I think people forget that if you like worry too much about like, oh yeah, I'm capable. I'll figure it out, fit it in.
Yes, absolutely. No, and I find myself saying yes, especially last year, just to things that I knew going into it that I didn't have the time for or I didn't have the capacity for. And I would find this frustration for this client in that. And I was like, I love this client. This isn't a client problem. This is a me problem. Like, it's because I'm so burnt out. I could have told them no and said, I'll catch you on the next time and connected them with another creative and moved on and the next project be 10 times better and the client experience be 10 times better. And so that's one thing that I'm really, really trying to hold on to this year for sure.
All part of the learning process, that's for sure.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So knowing that you do lots of different things in different industries, how do you organize your schedule, your day-to-day life? What does that look like in terms of being out in the field, traveling, editing, all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, so I have really tried to prioritize this year with having shoot weeks and then having office weeks. So there's weeks where this week is a shoot week. So I'm out in the field, I'm running like crazy. I've got a super, super cool shoot this weekend. And then all of next week, I'll be in the office. That's where I dump all my cards, I get everything organized in my file system, and then go into some editing, try to send out sneaks. And then on the web design side, that's where I try to get most of my website stuff knocked out for the week, client communication in there. I do struggle heavily on the communication side. That is one thing that I'm really trying to work on because I do have these weeks where I'm in the boots on the ground is what I'm trying to say, shooting, and I won't respond until I'm in my office week. So trying to find a balance with that has been tough, but I'll get there eventually. Again, all the learning process.
I love the idea of the shoot weeks because then you can also kind of like be in the same mode.
Yes.
I was going to ask what it's like to switch between, I guess photo and video in my mind are similar, but designing versus filming and editing. And so maybe that does that help also like keep your brain a little bit more organized?
It does. It does. One thing that I'm really bad about now is that now that I have like organized things with the shoot weeks and the editing weeks, I'll be so excited to work on a project and I'll start working on it. And then I'm like, I forgot, I need to finish up these designs. And switching between those two brains is kind of tough. And so I try to keep it where I'm only doing photo and video editing one day. The next day I'm doing design work and website development work. And then I'll go back to editing just so that I'm not constantly like turning one side of my brain on and then turning this one on, turning it off, trying to balance that. That has helped. However, I still jump between projects and stuff, especially when I'm working on cool things. It's hard. Like I'll be working on a video or something and a thought will pop into my mind and I'm like, I gotta make that happen right now. So
Yes, all the thoughts. What is it they say, like to put a journal next to your bed? So like when you're thinking about everything, I'm like, I really should try that because all the thoughts, I'm like, ooh, there's a lot up there.
Oh my gosh, I know. And I have started doing that and I have started sleeping better. Kid you not. Because I would struggle going to bed at night because I would just be thinking of all these things that I needed to do the next day or things for different projects, like a graphic idea or something like that. And now that I can like just bring it out of my mind, put it on paper. It's like I can leave that thought right there and peacefully go to bed. So I highly recommend it.
Well, yeah, especially when I read a book one time and it talked about how like creative ideas can be so fleeting. And so if you don't, or like especially driving all the time,
Yes.
you have free time and you're thinking about stuff. And I'm like, why didn't I write that down or say that out loud?
Right? Right? Absolutely. No, creative ideas have a shelf life, 100%. And whether it's they have a shelf life in your brain or if you're taking too long to bring it to fruition, like I truly believe that.
That is interesting. So, okay, how does that, like, how do you make that a reality when you're editing things? Like, do you give yourself, especially, I know there's this whole like perfectionist world, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I guess, are you like initially estimating how long a project's going to take and then trying to make sure it fits in that time frame? Are you always creating or editing based off of like until it's done? What does that look like, especially when you just said like, you're trying to make something work? And this is how I feel in design, where like I know what I want, but I just don't know the programs well enough, so I don't design.
Yeah,
And then
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
like, it's just not good enough, so it needs to be done, but you're not happy with it. So how does that work in your brain?
So I think in terms of like making things happen, my biggest thing is writing everything down and finding the key points that I struggle with the most. And before I really, really dive into that project, I'll try to research those aspects. I know Photoshop and Illustrator like the back of my hand now because of that, where I was doing a bunch of design work, a bunch of apparel work, and there were things that I was like, I see it. This is what I want to happen, and I don't know how to make it happen. And before I would start a project, I started researching on finding YouTube videos on how to vectorize drawings or how to do this, do that. And that kind of streamlined my process quite a bit, kind of doing the groundwork before actually jumping into these softwares. But I will say one thing that I have learned on the like signing yourself up to do things that you're not super well versed in. I have done that time and time again, and it has brought me benefit every time. And I know that sounds like so ridiculous, but I think if you communicate with your client prior to jumping into that project, like prior to anything being signed, any agreements happening, being like, hey, this is a new world for me. This is a little bit of new territory for me. But if you're willing to stick with me and just give me a little bit more time than what I've actually, like how I would write out a time frame for a different project that I'm super well versed in, then we're going to make it happen regardless. That has brought me so much benefit. That has actually put me into a lot of different worlds. That's how I got into web design, and that's how I got into something that I'm working on right now, which is super, super exciting. And I can't really talk too much about it, but yeah, so I think in terms of like the shelf life deal, just going for it and just going full send, but communicating that with if you're working with a client. But I don't know. I lost my train of thought there, but
No, you're good. I think it's a just like interesting process to work through. And everyone has a little bit of different, like how their brain works. So that's why I was curious.
Yeah.
How do you determine when a project is done? Whether that's an ad, a website, like, because you can tweak forever.
Oh yeah, no, I totally agree. I usually get to a point to where I'm like, all right, if I saw this online somewhere or in a magazine, if I saw this published, I would like that. And so that's where I try to get. That's like my end goal for myself, and then that's when I send it to my client. I struggle to get to that point where I'm like, yeah, I like this because I'm so close to it. Usually before I send it to a client, I'll bring in my sister or some of my interns just to make sure, like, hey, does this look like crap? Like, I need outside perspective here. But I do struggle a lot with just overworking the crap out of things. And that's something that I still am trying to nail down. Done is better than perfect. Like that being a phrase that I continually remind myself of has helped a lot. But yeah.
Have you ever heard, well, I guess if, I don't know how you'd answer, but we always talked about it with some friends when I worked at Angus. It was like, is it better to be on time and maybe not as good, or late and perfect?
Right, right. Man, I struggle with that because my personal opinion is late and perfect, you know, because I'm like, I struggle with this. What we do is art. Like, we are artists at the end of the day. And our brains have to be extremely powerful to create these things. So there are times where it's hard to put a hardcore timeline on these aspects. However, that's not how a business runs. But there's artists out there that sell their paintings for $40 million and it took them 3 years to create. So I need to find a balance, but that's my perspective too, because this is art. This is truly a craft. And I think that there's I think devoting more time to certain projects it's totally valuable for sure.
Well, and I also just find that like some are easier and some, like, whether that's creativity or like all the pieces come together. And so I'm always like, I don't really know how long a project's going to take because it's just so dependent on so many factors.
No, that's so true. Like there are some projects that are super like they're a lot more intense than another project that took me way longer. But going into it, I was like, I know exactly what I want. Like I have a vision. And then boom, I create it. Took me a couple hours, knocked it out. I say a couple hours, probably like a day. And then I send it off to my client and they're like, this is awesome. And then there's projects that are so simple. And that's one thing that I have gotten better at now, but like the minimalism and like some of these like super simple designs that are still like powerful and still hard, like heavy hitters, those trip me up the hardest for some reason. And I think it's because I overthink it. But I don't know. The time frame thing is a challenge for sure.
You've mentioned in a couple different times, like in different contexts, but where are you pulling inspiration from? Or like, how do you get your creative ideas? What does that look like when you're trying? I mean, are you seeking it before projects? Are you just letting life, filter or flow through you?
Yeah, so I used to just like open up a blank document in Photoshop or Illustrator for design work and just roll from there. But now I've started like scouring Pinterest, using Pinterest as a complete mood board, just like finding different vibes and finding like a consistent vibe. And once I like pin enough stuff to this project board, like specific project board, I get to a point where I'm like, all right, the vision's coming together. I'm feeling the vibe. Here we go. And that's whenever I think everything clicks. And sometimes I take pen to paper and I sketch things out. And sometimes I just dive straight into designing. It just depends on the project. But gathering inspo and creating mood boards and stuff, that has helped me a ton, especially with making sure that my vision aligns with the client's vision as well. Because there's been a couple of times where I went off on this completely just right turn and I was thinking, oh, they're going to love this. They're going to eat this up. This is going to be awesome. And I showed it to them and they're like, yeah, isn't even close to what we were thinking. And I'm like, okay. So, yeah.
We'll redo that. Sorry, no
Uh,
big deal. It didn't take
no,
me
I
forever.
only spent 8 hours on it.
When you are creating videos, how much prep work are you doing in terms of inspo, shot lists, mood boards ahead of time versus filming, capturing everything that's going on, and then putting together the story that like I think of events versus commercials.
Yeah.
And so what does that look like for video specifically?
So for videos and commercial work, I do a lot of prep work prior. First, start with the overall goal and kind of the whole vision for what they want this content to do for them. And then I roll into a shot list and make sure that's approved, make sure that kind of fits their vision as well. And then I start to build, like, kind of beef up those shot lists and start to play through some of these scenarios in my mind, which obviously in the livestock world and shooting at these ranches and stuff, it's hard to completely play out this vision exactly how it's going to happen because you're working with animals that aren't going to do exactly what you need them to do. But for weddings and stuff, it really helps just kind of play through the day, play through the timeline. I'm speaking more on the commercial side versus weddings. That's a completely different story. But yeah, that's kind of where I start. I do about a week or two of prep work before a shoot, trying to make sure that I have everything in line. And then I go through, once I've got my shot list lined out, I go through gear, make sure I've got everything that I need, make sure I don't need to rent something or buy something prior to the shoot. And then I have a conversation with the client prior to the shoot, like a couple days prior, just to make sure we're still good. Like my shoot tomorrow, we're shooting Eland cows, which I don't know if you know what that is. They're an exotic exotic breed, the largest antelope. So they're
Oh.
yeah, super cool. They're like massive animals, but they are super skittish. Like they refuse to be around people whatsoever, and they know that I can get to them with one of my like massive lenses that I've got. It's like a 300 to 600. But whenever I'm trying to get like, you know, cool shots of them coming into the feed pen and stuff, that I'm gonna have to set up GoPros. So I've got my GoPros and I've got my angles. I went and visited the ranch to make sure those angles were good. So things like that I try to take into account prior, but yeah.
Very cool. Everyone just does things differently, and I've done a few things outside of the ag world, and it's just so interesting, like talking to people that work in LA, and like every shot is planned out ahead of time, like perfectly. And obviously, when you're scripting commercials, like actual like advertising commercials, like that's super easy. But I'm just like, the livestock world is so, or event coverage, like you don't have as much control over things. So I just love to hear how people prepare as much
Yeah.
as you can given our circumstances.
Right, I know. And I wish I worked in the commercial world where you can control every little aspect. And maybe I'll get to that avenue one of these days. But yeah, for now it's just kind of you prepare as much as you can and then you get there and nothing goes to plan and you're just like, all right.
You just roll with the punches, right?
Yep.
Okay, I want to ask a few. These might be like kind of quick and high level, but I never really ask anyone, so I thought it'd be fun. Let's go through like essential camera gear.
Okay. I shoot Sony, so I'm a Sony girl, true and true. I shoot my A7 R5, that's my main photo camera, and then my A7 4, that's my main video and photo camera, and then an FX30, which is my main video camera, one of my main video cameras. And then lens-wise, 24 to 70, she always does me good. I love that girl. And then my 70 to 200, obviously, you gotta have one of those in the bag. And then for real estate, I use my 16 to 28 just for wide shots. But right now, I have this 300 to 600 that has been super vital with wildlife. It's massive. I'll show you in a little bit. It's insanely large. But yeah, I think that would be my main thing. And for video, ND filters for sure.
Are you, are there any tips or tricks or things you've learned over the years about traveling with all your gear?
Oh shoot.
I think it's so hard.
Yeah, it is it's such a challenge. Pelican cases are my best friend. Like have helped me a lot. And then also, and this is like so niche, but whenever I travel first class so that I don't have to check my camera case because that's happened to me time and time again where I'm rolling up there, I'm about to check my ticket and they're like, "Ma'am, you're going to need to check that back." And I'm like, there's like 50 bajillion batteries in here and they're like, take them out. So that's one thing that I've started to do just to like avoid that pain in the neck. But I think the Pelican cases would be my best advice for sure.
Okay, what about programs that you use, favorites, different things like that? If you want to talk about like, let's start with design or like Adobe programs, or maybe use DaVinci. But then I also was going to ask another one. So go ahead and start with that.
Yeah, so in design work, I use Photoshop and Illustrator and then Procreate on my iPad. I use those three quite a lot, all in unison. Like I've got them all open at one time. And then for photo work, Lightroom Classic, obviously. And then for video work, DaVinci Resolve to the day I die. I love that program. So yeah.
Did you start in DaVinci or did you start in Premiere?
I started in Premiere and I learned it, and I say learned it. I learned it as best as I could. And then I got to the point where I was just like struggling with everything. Nothing was looking the way that I wanted it to. It just wasn't, nothing was happening the way I needed it to. And somebody introduced me to, Taylor Fort actually introduced me to DaVinci Resolve. And I was like, I don't know, like I've learned Premiere, I don't feel comfortable in it. And he was like, dude, switch over to it, you're not gonna regret it. And I finally did. I did that about 2 or 3 years ago, 2 years ago, and that switch has completely changed my life. Like if I was still in Premiere, I would still be struggling.
DaVinci seems like a foreign world to me, especially like after like knowing that all the Adobe things, I mean, they're all different, but they kind of all work-ish in unison.
Yeah,
And so I'm
yeah,
like,
yeah.
oh, that seems so scary.
It is such a scary transition. Like when you finally get to the time, because I know with client projects and stuff, it's hard to be like, oh, well, I'm just going to take this into DaVinci and try to learn when you're still trying to knock a project out. But it is so worth it, truly. Switching over, and like it'll take a couple of months of getting comfortable with it and finding the new things. And there's still things that I find in there to this day. So it's a struggle for sure. But once you get the hang of it and the flow, I think you would definitely like it for sure.
You mentioned YouTube earlier, but are there different ways that you continue to try to grow in these spaces or learn these programs? Like what is
Oh yeah, Sam spends most of her time on YouTube for sure. I am watching YouTube all the time, uh, and I'm also asking ChatGPT all the time, how do I fix this problem? But that's where my career started. Truly, was I would find something that I wanted to do. Like way back in the day, I was like, I want to make this text look like it's metal, and so I'd find something like that I know I could find a YouTube video for, and I could apply it to whatever I was working on, and I would do all sorts of searching. I would find a video and I would follow that video step by step every part of the way until I finished it and I was like, this is awesome. And so I would reuse that over and over and over again. Same way with web design, same way with photo editing and video editing. Just finding a specific problem and finding a question to that problem and then finding the answer to it, whether it was through ChatGPT, through YouTube, whatever it may be.
very good. What are some programs, apps, whatnot that help you like run the business in terms of communication, deliverables? You know, like what are your essentials that you use every day?
Yeah, so I use PixiSet for my gallery deliveries and my video now, which I wasn't doing that before, but I realized it has a better quality download than Google Drive or Dropbox. And then just Gmail. I tried Motion. I don't know if you've heard of that. It's like a project management software. Tried it. It was so complicated. I did not know how to use it. So I need advice in that world. Like, I need advice in the organization portion of things because I truly struggle. For invoicing and proposals and stuff, I use Square and Better Proposals. But in terms of like day-to-day project management, I use a pen and paper.
Sometimes that's easy. Did you say Notion or Motion?
Motion, but it's similar to Notion.
Okay, because I was like, I like Notion, but it's also this like exciting and overwhelming blank space. But I've
Yes.
never heard of Motion, so I'll have to check it out.
Motion is similar where it's like super exciting. It can do all these things, but because it's so customizable, it's like you walk in and you're like, I don't know what to do. I don't know where to click. I don't know how to make this work. So
I've struggled with, like, I love all that stuff, and like I've tried to figure out a way to keep things organized, but I feel like a lot of things, especially when projects are not like completely repeatable or like there's no like pipeline to let them flow through, like with weddings or whatever, it's so easy because you're like plan, engagement shoot, wedding, edit, you know, like clear cut, simple.
exactly. Yeah.
I'm like, no, everything else in the world, there's just so many different parts and pieces. And I'm like, project management systems aren't the same as my brain. We need
No.
like creative to design something for us.
Exactly. Oh my gosh, I would pay big bucks for a creative to make something. But I'm actually gonna write that down because maybe I could make something.
Well, honestly, there's so much AI stuff now that I'm like, why do I not, like we could just create a program probably using AI to build it for us, but
Right. I know, and I use AI quite a bit in terms of I say quite a bit with ChatGPT. That is like my go-to, and Chat has helped me organize a lot for sure. So I would say that's another software that I use quite a bit for organization, but feels like a cop out.
I have been getting so mad at ChatGPT that I just started using Claude this week. So I'm dipping my toes in the water, yeah, and seeing, exploring the world. There's so many things out there.
Yeah, what is Claude?
It's another similar like chat-based program. I've heard
Yeah.
it's on it. Someone told me a long time ago that it's like a little bit better for maybe communicators, marketers, because it does a little better with like voice, tone, like understanding brands.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's actually true or not, but my chat wasn't loading on my computer, and I've like reset the web page, used it in different programs,
What the
but
heck?
I don't know what. So we've temporarily taken a break.
Yeah. Y'all are on a break.
Yeah, the AI world's kind of crazy. Do you ever fear that there'll be a time in the future that you aren't necessary because of AI?
Yes, 100%. Especially with all of these AI video editing softwares that are coming out and platforms. And I started working with an editor a while back, and to me, this was a person. They were responding to my emails like a person. I was sending them my creative briefs, everything. And then I realized it was an AI software that they were using because they left one of their watermarks on one of the videos they sent me one day. And I was like, are you kidding? Are you
Interesting.
actually kidding? So, yeah, I stopped working with that editor. But it does scare me for sure. Like that is a very daunting fear, but that's why I want to keep kind of diversifying what I do and kind of diving into these other aspects of the creative world with web development and content creation and stuff like that. I feel like there's still going to be some sort of human need there. So I think just kind of developing my skills continually to find where that human need has to be will be key. But yeah, it is kind of a scary thought.
I've wondered if there's a way that, like, in my mind, especially, like, I always think of like livestock breeders or small business, like small businesses, like, okay, maybe there's a way for potential for AI to like help more people at a lower cost. But then, yeah, like what you said, like, where's the human element that like differentiates and makes it authentic? And
Right.
maybe
Right.
it's farther away than what we realize, but
I hope. Gosh, I hope. But there are ways that I'm like, man, I really wish I had this. Like, I wish AI could help me here or kind of take this load off of me. Or, like, I know it could do a cleaner job than I am doing or something like that. But I think in what we do, there still has to be human hands that touch it in a lot of different aspects. So hopefully that will continue to be the case for as long as we're around.
yeah. Well, and I think you make a great point there. Like, if we're still waiting for things to come or like that we need, like, they don't have the programs or the capacity to do it, then maybe it is a little bit farther. Or like, there's still more time and more things that will be in the way of AI taking over our lives.
Yeah. Hey, maybe we're going to be the ones that create the AI that take over the creative space. You never know.
If I get rich one day, then I'll be fine. I won't complain.
Exactly. I'll be like, all right, take my job.
I'm just kidding. Yeah, but it's a little scary. Anyways, to kind of get back on track, we've talked about a lot of different fun things, but if knowing that you've done this for a long time and are still deep in it, what is something that you wish more creative people understood about what you do?
Ooh, that's a good question. In terms of like helping them grow or
Or like something that like people just don't even know that you do, or that's harder.
Ooh.
Like, what's something, and I guess I say that towards people that, and maybe that's like a younger Sam or
Yeah,
whatnot.
I would say, oh man, this is such a good question. I want to give you such a good answer. That's why I'm taking some time. I would say that consistency beats intensity every single time. I think that would be, and I know that sounds, let me elaborate. Like being consistent, showing up. If I would have burnt myself out years and years ago and just threw in the towel, I would not be where I am today. But because I stayed consistent and I kept pushing, I got myself to where I am now. That's one thing. And then I would say that, man, I hope you can cut out
No, you're
the
good. Take your time.
things in here. I would say start before you feel ready to. I consistently, whenever I was younger, was just like chasing things, like going all in. And I got to the point where I started thinking like maybe I need to like think through things before. Like maybe I need to take more time to fully flesh out an idea and like and that goes back to the thing creative ideas having a shelf life. And I finally realized like no, you just have to go all in. You have to start before you're ready. You have to just full send and that's how you'll actually move forward. But man, I'm really trying to think. I have like a good answer on the tip of my tongue, but
Okay,
yeah,
here's another twist. What's something you think people idolize about what you do that maybe is not as glamorous?
I think that they idolize the action. They idolize, being behind a camera and going to these places and meeting cool people and getting to do these awesome things. And then they forget the back end of it. So like seeing someone behind a camera is literally just about 35% of what actually goes into being a creative. You forget, it's easy to forget about all the hours spent behind a camera, behind a computer, you know, in your office by yourself, listening to the song on a loop for 30 seconds over and over and over again to make sure that a video looks good. I think that would be one thing that is easy to idolize, the lifestyle, the excitedness, the exciting portions of it, when really there are some dark periods there where you're just sitting behind a computer just like, I hate this.
That is such a good point. Very good point. Okay, now a little more tangible. If there was one thing that you, like an aspiring designer, photographer, videographer, you can kind of pick what lane you want to go down, or if it's just general, but like if they could do something in the next 30 days to get better at what they're doing, what would that be?
I would say find a question they're trying to find an answer to. Like try to find a problem they're trying to find a solution to, and go all in on that and do research, find the solution. That will build that confidence in yourself of saying, man, I fixed this problem, I can fix all these other problems. And I think that kind of will be a domino effect in a sense. So like there's some days where I get stuck in this loop of thinking, I don't know how to fix this problem. Like I don't know why this vector isn't looking the way that I want it to, or why this isn't coming out the way I need it to. This video looks like crap. I don't know what the problem is. And I spend too much time thinking about the problem versus finding a solution for the problem. So that would be my best advice.
That was like a little mic drop moment.
Thank you.
Okay, I have a few wrap-up questions for you. I could keep asking away, but in honor of us almost coming up on an hour, I'll wrap up. What is a book or podcast that you would recommend to listeners?
My favorite book of all time would have to be Atomic Habits. I love that book so much. It is kind of a tough read because I don't know about you, but I'm like a nighttime reader, like going to bed. And it's one of those books that gets you like super fired up and you're like, why am I in bed? I'm wasting so much time right now. That would be my best book recommendation. One thing out of that book, I'm getting 1% better every day. I live by that. Podcast recommendations, well, yours, of course. And I love Emma Chamberlain. I don't know if you listen to her. She's kind of like mainstream, like pop culture type gal, but she's got a lot of things that you can, if you're a creative, you can apply to your own life. She's got a lot about, you know, working through burnout, finding like confidence within yourself and being comfortable with yourself. She just has a lot of like real life insight. And I think she's 24, she's super cool gal, but yeah, that'd be my podcast.
That's fun. I'll have to add that one to my queue. Yeah. I am not as much of a pop culture girl, and my friends are toasters. Do you ever listen to The Toast?
Well, I've heard of it, but I've never listened to it.
That's, I guess, like I put that in the same category, and I'm like, yeah. Which maybe it's not, because I don't know that it's always educational, but I'm like, I need to expand my horizons. Like I can listen to a non-self-help book, you know, or like an educational book.
Yeah. Oh, I've been on the audiobooks like crazy recently too. Those have been awesome. But they're all like romance novels and stuff, like nothing super important.
Hey, gotta have it all. I like a little sprinkle of everything.
Yeah, exactly.
Sam, last question for you. What is one final piece of advice that you would give to listeners?
I think my best advice would be to not be afraid to stand out. Like not be afraid to be the weird one who is constantly designing in class, or be the weird one who's constantly looking up YouTube videos on how to do something. That would be my first piece of advice. And then my second piece of advice, and this is kind of a bit controversial, I guess, is to stop asking for advice. And more so in the sense of, like, obviously ask for advice, but don't look for like the magic key the magic answer that's going to fix all of your problems. Like put action behind what you're trying to do and the problems that you're trying to fix, and go find those solutions yourself, and don't rely on someone to be that solution for you. Put boots on the ground, get behind a camera, get behind a computer, try to figure things out yourself, and fail again, fail again. And then at one point, things will click. Things will all come together and you'll be like, wow, I'm so glad that I tried my hand at this and didn't just sit there and wait for someone to tell me how to do something. So yeah, that's my best advice.
As a perfectionist and people pleaser, I very much resonate with that. So I think that is a beautiful way to end today's conversation. So
Yeah.
thank you so, so much. Where can people find you, follow you, see all your cool work?
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram at storyhouse. It's story.house.co. And that's where I don't post quite a bit, but that's where you can find me. That's where you can see my work. And then on Facebook, I'm at Storyhouse as well. So, yeah.
Very good. Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. We had such a great little combo.